This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. It's Remembrance Day, Friday, November 11th. Charity is off today. She'll be back in on Monday, November the 14th. And if, like many people, the holiday season begins immediately after Remembrance Day, we'll let you know that ChristmasinQuinty.ca will also begin at midnight tonight. Your local source for all of your holiday favorite music, 24/7 from midnight tonight right through the holiday season. If you already have the Christmas and Quinty app on your phone or device, G to G, you're good to go. If you don't, download it through our website at 955hitsfm.ca, or you can also just stream it through our website as well. But why do that when it's 2022 and we got a cool app for you? So download that, okay? That begins at midnight tonight. A lot going on the show today, including Inspector Sherri Meeks was on the show. We talked to her because she's got a wonderful event that the Belleville Police Service is spearheading next week, which offers the opportunity in a night to determine whether a young woman would choose to pursue a career in law enforcement. I mean, what a great way to find out and go to the source. So she was on the show this morning to talk about why it is important for them to reach out.
Yeah, it's more part of our recruiting initiative. So it is our second annual Women in Policing event that we did our first one last year, and it was a big success. So we're going to make it an annual thing. And it's next November 17th between 5:30 and 8:30, and it's an opportunity for young females, because 16 and up is what we're looking at for registration, that are possibly considering a career in law enforcement. It gives them a really good opportunity to see exactly, what some of the opportunities are, speak to officers who have been here, both male and female, and also get an opportunity to go meet with Sergeant Pat Como and in the training area and learn about, some of the equipment we use and some simulation exercises and stuff like that. So it's a very, we have 3 different sessions that are going to be planned throughout the evening that they're going to rotate through, and they'll also get an opportunity to talk to our recruiting department and figure out, okay, what steps do I need to take if this is something I'm interested in pursuing? Yeah,
Inspector Sherri Meeks joins us this morning. That's an important topic locally, too, because of the courses that are available at Loyalist. Mm-hmm. It literally is, you can go to the night, see what you want to see, and then you don't have to go too far from home if you do want to pursue it as a career.
Absolutely, yes. We have the Police Foundations program right local, and at Loyalist, they've been offering that for years, and it's a very good opportunity as well to, get your education, your post-secondary education, and learn about what some of the skills that we're looking for in law enforcement.
How have you seen the female officer numbers increase, Sherri?
It's interesting because obviously I started in 1996. And the representation then would have been in your low teens, right? Mm-hmm. They started collecting data on gender in policing in 1986. So really, not that long ago. Yeah. And we only represented 4% back then in 1986. Wow. So now, if you look at the stats now across Canada, we're at 22%. And our police service locally is at 21%. So we're not far off the national average. So one of our initiatives through our strategic safety plan is we have a 30 by 30 initiative. So the goal would be to increase females in policing to 30% by the year 2030. So I do think it's attainable because the numbers have, obviously you can see, they've raised significantly since even when I started.
Can you think back, why did you, if the numbers were like I know you and I know the stuff that you do in the community, and I can't imagine you doing anything else what you do because you're award-winning, you're great at it, but at some point you had to make the decision. What was it that pushed you in that direction if the numbers weren't as high as they are today?
I never even thought about that. I know that seems funny, but I didn't even think about the representation thing back when I was in my 20s. I literally had I'd gone through my post-secondary education, had worked in a lot of different opportunities through Toronto with like a young offender. I worked at a custodial facility. I worked at probation. Got to see and meet a lot of different people because I came from a very sometimes non-traditional where I didn't really know, I had no family that were police. and I had no close friends. So through those jobs, I was able to talk to some officers, and I was like, I really want to do something, at the time, whether it was lawyer or whether it was law enforcement. And once I started talking to some of the police officers in Toronto and some of the bigger centers that I was working in, I was like, this just seems like it's something that I need to do, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say a calling, and I didn't even think twice about, there's going to be a lot of males in this profession, and I may be one of only a few. I mean, it became evident very early on, but I was one of the team, right?
Yeah.
It didn't matter what my gender was, and throughout the years, we've only seen that increase and more representation, and I think it's really important because we all have different skills and we all have different perspectives, and it's nice to have that at the table when we're out there on the road or whether we're in a leadership position like I'm in. So nothing can ever hurt from that, right?
No.
Nothing can ever, yeah. So my path may be different than other people, but the opportunities are still. It's still there for anyone. It doesn't fit. There's not a mold that anybody has to fit in order to be part of law enforcement.
And you're helping to make paths for others who want to follow in your footsteps.
Exactly. Great opportunity for others to find out if this is their calling, especially women. So if you said women have to be 16 years or older to take this night in, how is there registration? How do they take part?
Yes. Yeah, so we've opened it up to 60 participants. I think we've got, as of yesterday, we're at 46, so we still have some spots. You can just register right online. www.bellevilleps.ca on our website has a link on to join, and you just have to register that way, and you will be part of the event.
Inspector Sherri Meeks from the Belleville Police Service. Women in Policing event coming up next Thursday, November 17th, 5:30 to 8:30. Again, a great opportunity if you've been thinking of going that route as a career. This is your chance to see what it's all about and talk to our police officers, our men and women in action here in the city of Belleville. Thanks so much, Sherri.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So sign up if you're interested, or as I had said before, sign up if you're not interested. If you actually believe that as a young woman, a career in law enforcement is the last thing you want, go. Because then if you leave thinking, you know what, maybe I do, you're even more convinced. It's a great career. Always need officers in any legal profession. Take advantage of that, okay? And of course, it's right here at Loyalist, so that's great. Inspector, thank you for that. Spaces are available, but only a few, so hurry up. And then also on the podcast this morning, you may recall, Charity and I had a great chat with a guy by the name of Carey Durant. Carey is a fundraiser for minor hockey. He is an advocate for children's mental health through sports and had a gut-wrenching childhood surrounded by the abuse scandal of Maple Leaf Gardens. Say no more. He reached out to Charity and wanted to talk about the Mitchell Miller situation with the Boston Bruins. This young man was accused of abusing a young man. They believe they're both about 14 years of age when it started. And though that information was known, he became a tremendous hockey player. Some had said that allowed him to remain undetected because he was a hockey player. And we've talked very much about culture of hockey here in this country, and Hockey Canada is wrestling with that now. But the Boston Bruins decided that they were going to bring him up without doing what they called all of their due diligence. As a result, a number of the players on the team, fans, began to voice their very strong displeasure. And upon doing more research, Cam Neely and the brass of the Boston Bruins decided not to bring him onto the team. And Carey had a thought about that. So he reached out, and we wanted to give him the platform to express his thoughts on that issue and the importance that we play in offering an alternative to bad behavior and poor upbringings in sport.
Are we going too far the other way? And giving you just an example, in Hockey Canada, if you call somebody a derogatory name or something that's obviously not, if it's distasteful, you call them something, automatically you get indefinitely suspended. It's a 7-game suspension.
Yeah.
For some things. But on the other side of things, where we were so worried about kids getting head checked before and other things, you can head check a kid now, and the first offense is only 3 games.
Right.
So
the first offense. So then it can happen again.
It can happen 4 times in a season, and it goes from 3 to 4 to 6 to an indefinite suspension after that, which most kids won't get. But where do we draw the line in where I'm going to say physicalness becomes less important than emotional? My parents, when I was growing up, you've heard that saying before: "Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you." I think a check to the head is pretty serious, especially if it's done maliciously. And I just find we have to find a better balance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, words certainly matter, but yes, definitely a shot to the head that can be life altering.
Absolutely, and I'm unsure. Sometimes I think we overeducate everybody. In regards to the more we talk about transgender and the more we talk about sexuality in hockey, to me, I don't think it needs to be talked about that much. To tell you the truth, I think an 8-year-old kid or a 9-year-old kid really doesn't know very much about that. And why do they need to know at that age?
They want to play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hockey about having fun and scoring goals and pretending you're a hero, you're a McKinnon or a Crosby, and you're getting to score that Stanley Cup goal. And I think that's what really being a kid's all about.
Well, when you talk about the what is said versus the headshots, are you saying that you think the headshot should be worth 7 and a comment shouldn't be punished? Like where do you think the line should be?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that we need to be tougher on the things in hockey that can actually physically damage somebody for their whole life, and that is headshots. And talking to somebody and saying something, I think it's all about education. And the more we educate people about concussions and about how you can damage somebody is a good thing. And also, I think education's good on the other side of things too, like Hockey Canada. They are trying to do that. They're obviously trying to change the sport. I think we need to be a little tougher on the hits from behind and the hits to the head. But I also think there has to be better discretion on the officials too. What it is, because sometimes I think we overreact. Sometimes
it's warranted, though. If things are said on the ice, some things you can't ignore, though, either.
Totally agree with you. I think there's some things that are said that are completely offside to people, especially racial comments. And to me, I think that's just, it's about education. It's about talking to kids and making them understand race or religion or anything. Culture has nothing to do with hockey at all.
Yeah, I can't remember the NHL star who said it. I wish I could because it sounded more legitimate. But they said, if you knew what we say to each other in a face-off circle, you'd never buy our jerseys.
Right. And I think that's where, this whole thing that's going on now, I don't agree with what this young man had done to this boy who was, the boy was first drafted by Arizona, then he's been signed by Boston. Now
Mitchell Miller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us agree with what he did. But at some point, where do we draw the line between helping our youth out today in education and rehabilitating people, than basically throwing them out like they're nothing? And I know this is an extreme kind of point of view, but we rehabilitate, or we try to rehabilitate people that go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a kid who's just in his early 20s that's obviously been led down a bad road, has not had good parenting, and everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon and crucify him. And I just don't think that's the right way to go about things. I think, if anything, the National Hockey League has they have an alcohol and drug abuse program. Why don't they have a program for stuff exactly like this? And if this young man is capable and good enough to play in the National Hockey League, put him through the process where he has to donate half of his paycheck for the first 3 years to his victim and to other victims. And I think that's a real teaching moment, a real learning lesson for somebody, and we can make better people out of the youth today. I'm just not a big advocate of taking kids and throwing them out because they've done something wrong.
Absolutely. And we saw it with Hockey Canada. The culture reform, everybody's been saying that. And with the NHL too, here's an opportunity, is what you're saying, for them to take this kid and I don't want to say make an example, because that to me has a bit of negative overtones to it, or undertones, but show that, okay, we're going to take this kid and we are going to help him. as opposed to, and I'm not saying that is right. I'm just saying that's what came to mind for me, because it is a situation I can see both sides as a parent, as well as especially as a hockey parent. But another way that you can you can change the culture around it.
Absolutely. It's funny because it's back page news right now, but no one talking about the other boy from Montreal that was drafted, and he had sexual contact with a female in Europe and sent pictures around about him, and no one's talking about how Montreal signed him. Oh. And he's signed now with Montreal, and he's there, and they put up a big stink when they drafted him, but he's there and he's signed now. Mm-hmm. And to me, this other young man physically abused somebody. I don't know, where do you draw the line? And now this other kid has given out pictures of this girl when she's young, and they're nude pictures. And so where do you define that? What's worse punishment for one of those kids? And then you even go farther back into the National Hockey League, where I think they really have to clean up that league, is, Marty McSorley hit Donald Brashear over the head with a hockey stick. Yeah. Todd Bertuzzi ruined a guy's career. One of the Moore brothers, Danny Heatley, was drunk driving and killed one of his teammates with the Atlanta Thrashers.
That's right.
So there's a lot of things that have happened, and a lot of people have forgotten about those things. And I think generally the NHL needs to clean itself up. And again, going back to minor hockey, kids only want to be like their superstars.
Yeah.
And a lot of checking from behind and a lot of headshots go on in the National Hockey League, and they get 2 minutes for it. They don't get. Rarely do you ever see a guy get thrown out of the game because there's money involved.
Carey Durant joins us this morning. I'll tell you what, just to play devil's advocate, because I don't have a horse in the race. I'm not a hockey parent, and I've never played hockey, but you asked where you draw the line. I am very comfortable drawing a line with Mitchell Miller. I am very comfortable with that, because it was a pattern of abuse, and my stance is nobody has the right to play in the NHL. That's a privilege. And the Boston Bruins are in the business of winning Stanley Cups, not rehabilitating youth. That's their business model. And they made a decision not to hire this young man. Every company has a business to do it. So what would be your take on that as a fan if I say, yeah, don't bring him in, I don't care?
You know what? I think you're totally right in everything you say, Mark. I actually agree with you. I just believe that there's got to be something out there or someone that needs to help this kid.
Sure.
Whether it's the Boston Bruins, the Arizona Coyotes drafted him. Mm-hmm. So there's somebody in the National Hockey League, somebody knows about this kid. I mean, the National Hockey League will give money to other charities or other things that they believe in youth and stuff like that. Why not help this kid out? Why not help him out? Why not set up a program for this where they educate the youth? I mean, the NHL doesn't exist unless there's minor hockey players playing, because they all have to get to the league somehow,
right,
in some shape or form.
Yep.
So the National Hockey League could really, really do a lot of good here by saying, hey, listen, we are going to dedicate so much money every year that's made here to educating the youth of today about how this happened and why it happened and how we can correct all this. I mean, for this young man, too, I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, we all don't know the full story. You never know the full story about things, because obviously it's third-hand news. But to me, where were the parents?
Yeah.
And how did this go? How did this go on for such a long time? And who else turned their back? I mean, those people that turned their back on this, that didn't pay attention to this at all, or just let it go. I mean, where was the kid playing hockey all the way up until this point? In the leagues that he played in, why were they not proactive about obviously addressing it with this young man?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you don't have to go very far in any sport to take a look at the history of domestic violence of athletes and, and the money involved with drug abuse. And you're right, we're never going to solve all of it by not allowing this kid in the NHL. I completely agree with you on that, or why he's being held up as a poster child for what's wrong with sports in all of that. And I don't know what the answer is, but my point to you now is you're coaching 13-year-old kids. The way you feel passionately about that, does it change the way now that you look at coaching as, say, when you were 13 and playing?
Yeah, when I was younger, I think it was about 100 years ago when I was playing at that age. So it was much different back then. I mean, as we go through our years and years of culture, obviously when I was 13, people did say a lot of things that were completely offside, and it was very acceptable. And now it's not acceptable. Our world has changed. And for myself as a coach, I have to make sure, like, coaching is one thing about the X's and O's of it and going on the ice and teaching kids skill work and teaching them systems and teaching about the game. I think there's a way bigger role as a coach right now as a role model. And for me, it's very important that my message to the kids is that, A, everybody's created equally, and we have to accept everybody. And that's just the way the world is. And whether you like it or not, or whether your parents like it or not, people just deserve respect because we're human beings. Mm-hmm. And just because you play a sport, and just because at the level I coach at it's the highest level in Ontario for kids, it's a AAA hockey. And for some reason, there does seem to be a culture that if you do not play AAA, like if you play AA or single A or select or house league, it's almost like you're less of a human being. And I try to tell people that is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. Just because you play at the highest level. So just because you play in the NHL, that doesn't exempt you either from being a good person. And I think that just seems to be, it wouldn't matter what sport it would be. I just think there's that thing that people seem to think they're better. I mean, in all honesty, we have society backwards anyways. We have doctors out there that are trying to save people's lives, and they don't make as much money as professional athletes. Yeah, how does somebody get paid millions of dollars to hit a baseball, and here a heart surgeon and neurosurgeon doesn't get paid even a quarter of what they're getting paid?
Yeah. Yep. Nope. Very, very true.
It's very nice to hear you say all of that, Carey.
You know what? I'm very passionate about the game. I'm very passionate about kids. And I think, first off, I always hear, how kids are, my kid's 24 now, and I hear, kids, they're not good. They're mixed up. And I said, well, first off, I think there's a lot of great kids out there. And I think our country as a whole, our future looks very bright. There's a lot of bright kids out there with a lot of great ideas. And instead of knocking them down, why are we not encouraging them to be the best that they can be? I want a better country. I think everybody wants a better place. And I think we need to encourage the youth of today to be the best they can be and let them stretch their wings. And just because we don't think their ideas are great, I think they do have a lot of great ideas, and just maybe we don't understand them because now at 56, I'm set in my ways.
Yeah. Well, in 3 years when you're 59 like me, it doesn't get any looser, I'll tell you that.
No, I really want to thank both of you. I think that it's awesome, both of you, to have me on and have other people on. You guys have a way of having a platform for a lot of positive things, and I think that's an awesome thing, because sometimes things need to get out there and they need to be discussed and they need to have conversations. And I just really appreciate the fact that you like opening up conversations about sport and about how things are going and how people are doing.
Carey Durant, we appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out to us on the issues, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck with the team.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Carey. It's the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast. Just hit the little bell at the top or whatever you've got to subscribe. We have it up weekdays by 11 o'clock in the morning, all part of our morning show here on 95.5 Hits FM. If you're hearing this after 11 o'clock, which I trust you are, I hope you had a peaceful and reflective Remembrance Day, and enjoy your weekend. We're back at it again on Monday. Charity will be back. Enjoy your weekend.